Well, the time with the band, my time in the Byrds, I guess I could liken it to the way people talk about LSD. People talk about good trips, bad trips. You know, I don't like to use a drug reference. I don't support drugs in any way, but imagine being in a situation where you are surrounded by people who want something from you. And they have something they want to give you. And you're never quite sure what it is that's underneath all this. So you have to learn to read people. And a situation can turn from a very positive experience to a very negative experience like that. Right? Because everybody has some kind of expectation, some kind of dream connected with that world. You know, so you can have some moments that are just so incredibly beautiful, you know, like, or musical moments that are just transcendental. And then you can also have moments that are just like, oh my God, this must be something that happens in hell, you know. There's a lot of that, you know, and you need to learn to deal with that. Keith Richards is quoted as saying, the secret to rock and roll is you learn to deal with whatever happens. People have said, how come the Stones have lasted, you know, since the Jurassic period? We deal with whatever happens, you know. So you need to have that kind of flexibility. So when I look back on my experience in the Byrds, for a long time I wouldn't look at it because it was so full of all these kind of extremes, you know. And now I can extract things and I can say, God, I got to play with Roger. I got to hang out with Roger. I got to play with Clarence and Gene. I played with Gene Clark. I played with all these Michael Clark. That was tremendous. How lucky I am that they wanted me.
Sorry, keep on hitting.
I'm sorry. How, you know, when I look back and I see all these incredible people that I had the opportunity to play with in that band, now I can say, wow, how lucky I am that they wanted to play with me. That when I look at their level of creativity and musicality, it's awesome. So now I can say, well, I must have been their peer, right? But then, if I choose to, I can look back on absolutely nightmarish situations. I mean, horror stories of things that can go wrong anytime you have human beings under pressure. So there's a lot of that with the Byrds experience that I don't usually talk about. And I, you know, like we read these books about the Byrds and things, and the guys that are in the books, sometimes we talk to each other, and it's the things that are not written, the things that are in between the lines that we see, that we remember, that just leap out at me. Sumi will tell you, when I was reading John Einerson's book about Gene Clark, I had nightmares. I'd wake up in the middle of the night just shaking. I mean, I got emotionally sick sometimes reading, going back into my mind to certain kinds of energy that you have to deal with in a situation like that. So when I look back on the Byrds, I see this real yin-yang kind of situation where there's a tremendous uplifting experience connected with all that's good in that kind of musical, creative situation. But then there's all this other negative stuff that I don't have to deal with anymore because I'm not in that world anymore. You know, I think the average person is not pushed to those limits. Like George Harrison said, that the Beatles sacrificed their nervous systems to the world. You know, so I feel lucky. I'm not a casualty. You know, so many of those musicians that I worked with, they're not here anymore. You know, and it's a battle. You know, like Roger McGuinn once introduced his band. Not a band that I was in anymore, but a band that when I went to visit him one time. He said, these are survivors of the great folk rock wars. You know, and quite frankly, I feel like that. When you ask me these questions, or other people come and ask questions about what it was like, what was your experience like. When I was a kid, you'd read in Life magazine, oh, there's 3 guys left who were in the Civil War. This guy's 106, this guy's 103, this guy had his leg shot off, he's 104, and they're talking about the Civil War. And then each year, oh, now we're down to 2 guys. You know? So in some ways, I can say, yeah, it was a lot like being on some battlefield. You know, it was a lot like being in some kind of cataclysmic situation. And then it could go to absolute boredom, sitting in the airport for 9 hours because some idiot messed up on the reservations. You know? I mean, yeah, I'm trying to describe the indescribable, you know.